Welcome to the Practical NLP podcast with me, Andy Smith. Catch up on previous episodes at nlppod.com. Now let's look at how we can use NLP to run better meetings and to have the meeting turn out the way you want it to more often. Do you ever find yourself in meetings that drag on, don't achieve as much as they should, in which people seem to be bored and disengaged? When I was an employee, I took part in a lot of unproductive meetings. Sad to say, I probably chaired a few as well. Later I discovered NLP and discovered there are certain things you can do to make your meetings run better, get things done, and that people actually feel are worthwhile attending. In some businesses and professions, people spend more time in meetings than they do actually working. A doctor mate of mine used to do a stress management presentation for overworked general practitioners. One of the slides was captioned, "Meetings, the practical alternative to work." So if you want your meetings to work better, keep listening. From what you already know of NLP, what could help you to run better meetings? I can certainly think of a few ideas from NLP which could help. Mainly, as with anything you set out to do, know your desired outcome. Maintain your sensory acuity so you notice what's going on, and have the flexibility to change what you're doing if you need to. If we think of a meeting as having 3 stages, preparation, opening the meeting, and during the meeting, including closing, here are 3 models, one for each stage, which will help you run emotionally intelligent meetings that don't eat into productive time. Things are always easier to remember with acronyms, so get ready to remember MODEM, RASTA, and DRUBS. First of all, preparing for the meeting. MODEM. First of all, must we meet? Is the meeting necessary? Meetings, preparing for meetings, and traveling to and from meetings take up a lot of time that often could be more productively spent elsewhere. Considering meetings in the light of the managers versus makers distinction made by Paul Graham at paulgraham.com, meetings fit well with someone on manager's schedule, where the day is divided into 1-hour intervals. But makers, people like programmers, technicians, copywriters, and so on, need longer chunks of time to be productive. For them, a 10:30 meeting means switching work modes and breaks up the morning into chunks too small to do anything difficult in. Information updates can be handled by email or phone. Anything with an emotional impact needs a face-to-face meeting. Secondly, outcome. Establish where you want to get to by the end of the meeting. So write down, this is what I want to happen by the end of the meeting. Apply the evidence frame. What will you see and hear and feel as a result? What will be measurably different? If you know what you want to get from the meeting, it makes it much more likely that you will be happy with the end result. There's also another effect of being outcome-focused in meetings which may surprise you. For some people, at least, it gets rid of nervousness. I had a coaching client who, despite being a successful marketing manager for a multinational corporation, felt nervous in meetings and had trouble speaking up. I asked her what her desired outcome for her main weekly meeting was, and she said, not getting found out. Now, we could have spent some time going into her feelings about authority figures and identifying her limiting beliefs, reframing them and clearing them, but for some reason we didn't go down that route. Instead, I asked her if it made a difference to her what the meeting decided. If it didn't, I was going to ask her if she actually needed to be there. I got a very congruent, yes it does response. So I asked her to do some work before the next meeting, getting very clear on what she wanted to happen and the outcome she wanted to see. The next week she reported back that not only had she not felt nervous, but she'd spoken up several times and the meeting had agreed on the outcome she wanted. As soon as she was clear about the desired outcome, her focus shifted from internal, on her own feelings, to external, onto the other people in the meeting, looking for evidence that the meeting was going the way she wanted. When you're focused on a desired outcome, you're not concerned with the ups and downs of your own feelings, and you're literally not self-conscious, leaving you in a more resourceful state. Step 3. Decide what you will do for each contingency. Explore what could happen and establish if-then options for what you will do if it does. Step 4. Establish who needs to be there and agree the agenda. Discover people's outcomes and get agreement on the agenda. Step 5. The meeting place. Make the environment conducive to the outcome you want. No interruptions. Have the seating arrangements in a circle so everyone can see each other's eyes. To make sure that people concentrate and don't waste time, you could have the meeting standing up. Okay, now on to opening the meeting with the acronym RASTA. So, rapport. As people come in, greet them and establish rapport. Sensory acuity. Calibrate their physiology. You're looking for alert, responsive people. If someone appears to be in the grip of a strong negative emotion, this could disrupt their concentration or even the whole meeting if you don't deal with it. They might, for example, have left their car on double yellow lines and are worried about it getting towed or clamped. Throughout the meeting, use your peripheral vision to regularly check what's happening. Next element, state and agree the outcome and evidence procedure. This is where we want to get to by the end of the meeting, and we'll know when we've got there because time frame. Make sure everyone knows the time that the meeting has to end. Ensure that everyone has time to say what they need to. Achievements. Start with successes. With team meetings, use the appreciative frame. A good way to get people into a better and therefore more capable and creative state is to ask, what successes and achievements have we had since we last met? This should be in the spirit of an invitation to contribute rather than picking on individuals. You, what have you achieved? During the meeting and closing, drubs. Detail. Get the right level. Discuss ideas, objectives, and responsibilities rather than every little detail of how someone is going to achieve them. If this needs to be discussed, it can be done outside the meeting. Remember, the more you drill down into detail, the less interesting it gets for people not directly involved in that topic, and the more opportunities you have for people to disagree. Relevancy challenge. How to keep the meeting on track. Make the agenda and desired outcome explicit and put it up where people can see it. If any participant goes off on a tangent, you can respectfully challenge, "Excuse me, how is this relevant to the agenda or outcome we agreed on?" Pretty soon, just a nod or a gesture to the agenda should be enough to bring people back on track. Unproductive participants. How to deal with them. So I'm going to propose 2 types of unproductive participants. Someone who's switched off and someone who is actively objecting and nitpicking. If the person appears to have switched off, you need to establish what's going on. Are they worried about something outside the meeting? Consider allowing them to deal with it. Are they thinking they shouldn't be there? Ideally, you would find this out beforehand. Consider letting them leave if they don't need to be there for the rest of the meeting, and their responsibilities and actions have already been established. If this happens regularly, or with more than one person, take it as evidence that your meetings are too long or that you're inviting the wrong people. If the person is constantly raising objections, a mismatcher who is always looking for the opposing point of view to what's been said, or still worse, a polarity responder who automatically does the opposite of whatever you tell them, give them the job of devil's advocate. Ask them to make notes of any flaws or objections they notice and allocate them some time at the end of the meeting to report back on these. The backtrack frame to handle disagreement. If there's major disagreement or objection at any stage, interrupt and summarize what has been agreed up to now, starting from the beginning of the meeting and continuing up to the last point of agreement. Match the tonality of the objector, leading them towards a calmer state. This has the effect of a rewind and is an opportunity to start over on the controversial area. Finally, summarize. At the end of the meeting, summarize what's been agreed, who's going to carry out each action, and the completion date. You could also do a mini summary at the end of each stage of the meeting. Confirm the date for the next meeting and thank the participants. That's it for this week's podcast. Remember, you can see the show notes for this episode at nlppod.com, and you can download back episodes you may have missed from the online store at webstore.nlppod.com. See you next time.